Hi, it's Jane. Cicadas around here singing. Ugh, I'm really tired of that. All right. Thought I would read something to you. I saw this today on I think it's the Crafter Association something. You may have already heard this news, but I think it's good news. Maybe. Irving, Texas-based craft store chain Micheals has acquired the intellectual property and private label brands of Joann, which filed for bankruptcy in January of this year. Over 800 Joann stores nationwide shut down at the end of last month. Micheals has endeavored to expand its fabric and sewing assortment in select stores and online over the last several years. This acquisition will add several new brands in these categories to Micheals' existing lines, as well as new threads, yarns, and sewing machines. Over 600 new products will be added in all. We're honored to have the opportunity to welcome Joann customers into our creative community and are committed to delivering the selection, value, and inspiration they are looking for at Micheals, said David Boone, Chief Executive Officer at Micheals, in the press release. This acquisition allows us to better serve both new and existing customers, respond to rising demand across categories, and build on our momentum as a destination for creating and celebrating in North America. Micheals will now carry Brother and Singer sewing machines, kits from DMC and Loops and Threads, Pellon interfacing, additional products from Clover, Fiskars, Coates & Clark, Velcro, and Aliso irons. Over the summer, Micheals will begin selling an expanded collection of yarns from Red Heart, Bernat, and Lion Brand. The Joann in-house yarn brand, Big Twist, will be introduced into Micheals stores later this year. In 2019, Micheals acquired the intellectual property and leases for up to 40 AC Moore stores when that craft chain store shut down. In 2016, Micheals acquired the intellectual property of Hancock Fabrics when that retailer filed for bankruptcy. So I guess that's good news, right? I don't know. Maybe good news for a lot of people in larger cities, but here where I live, it's probably doubtful that my Micheals will add any of those fabrics, those kind of things. They already have some threads, but I don't really see them adding a whole lot of fabrics. My store is pretty small, both of them, the one in Muncie and then also the one that is in State College. They would actually have to rent a new space if they were going to add fabric lines and sewing machines, sewing machines, a whole lot of those things that are normally carried at Joann's. So we'll see. But like I said, for some of you, it's excellent news, and hopefully they'll be able to carry on, and we'll see some growth. I don't know. I am excited that the Big Twist yarn will be coming there. That'll be nice. Hope they have the variety that they had. But, yeah, doesn't help me fabric-wise, like I said. So that I'm a little heartbroken about, But there isn't a whole lot we can do about it. It is what it is. It's gone. Move on, find another avenue, right? Today I thought I would crochet a little bit, and I am going to add another progress keeper, stitch marker, whatever you want to call it. So, I think this is where we were the last time, and got a couple of rows, and now we're ready to work on turning whatnot. I did manage to get two of Ronan's paws, his nails clipped. And it was rather surprising. I did not have to put the clip, hair clip on his, the scruff of his neck. He was actually on the arm of this chair right here, kind of rolled over, and I was petting and loving on him, and then I just reached down and cut one paw, and then I petted and loved on him some more, then reached and grabbed the other paw and did it. I don't know how I'm going to get the feet, though, the back legs, but I did get the two front paws done. And he let me do them without fighting me. So maybe he's learning to chill and relax a little bit. I had gone to Dollar Tree yesterday afternoon, and I showed you some of the things that I picked up there. And let me tell you, I had purchased 3 canned goods, and I'll tell you what they are. One of them was called Fancy Spinach in the can. I do like cooked spinach. I like spinach. Spinach and okra are those two that I could have, cooked or raw. Well, I don't really like okra raw, but I have eaten it raw. But I like it any way I can get it. So when I got home, I had done a lot of running around, whatnot, and when I got home, I was like, where are my cans at? Because I got the spinach, and I got one of the Campbell's pork and beans, and I had also gotten one of the cans of the chicken tamales, because I've been craving tamales, and I was like, where are they? Well, left them at the store, so went back today after a prayer service and talked to the girl and showed her my receipt and whatnot. And of course, there they were, sitting there waiting for me. And she started laughing. She said, how'd you get out of here without them? I said, I don't know. I have no clue how, because normally I'm pretty aware of what's going on. And then I said, well, I was talking with the manager. We were talking about she has a second job where she drives for the Amish. And I was teasing her because she was the only one in the store and was going back and forth. And she just finished with the customer, ringing them out when I came walking up. And I said, don't go back to the back, because I'm ready to check out. I said, unless you just want to get extra steps in. And so we just chit-chatting. I said, so maybe that's what it was. And that's probably what happened is we got to talking, and either she didn't put the bag up on the counter or she put it up there and I only grabbed one. So No telling what happened there. But she was telling me about the Amish in Ohio are a little different than here. Here they do not use electric bikes, electric scooters. They do have these things that it looks like they have bicycle wheels and it looks like a skateboard, but you use your feet to push off and to get going on it. And then they'll also ride bicycles around here, but they don't use electrical bikes or mechanical things other than like working on the farm, those kind of things. They will use different farm equipment and things like that as long as they can borrow it or rent it, they won't buy it. So, which is an interesting concept all itself. She said a lot of those, because when she'd taken the group of Amish to Ohio this last time, she said it was a very different experience getting to see the electric bikes and electric scooters. She said, but I really can't blame them. She said, because I wouldn't want to be going up and down those hills either. A lot of hills in that area where she was taking this group to. So, yeah, you never know. Still working on that blueberry lemonade. And as you can see, my blueberries have all, it's not blueberry lemonade, it's blue raspberry lemonade. My blueberries are all settled down in the bottom. And I will have a little snack of those when I finish the water. But, and I am filming this Friday afternoon, so. There's that, right? But, yeah, I just think it's interesting how as I get older, I seem to be a little more easily distracted. Don't really care for that. I do find this whole thing with Trump and Elon Musk, and I find it suspicious, but and the reason I find it suspicious is there's already been testimony that showed that the witnesses in the papers, they basically said Trump had nothing to do with any of this. He was never on the island. They've already testified to it. That was in the files that they had released, the small amount of files. But and then I think it's funny, Elon has said, well, Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files. That's why they haven't been released. So now all the Democrats are calling for it to be released. And I think they're being trolled, but I might be wrong on that. There may actually be some kind of, goings on in the background with these two that you don't know of, but I think we're being trolled, and I think that was a way of getting the Epstein files back out there and getting Democrats to call for them to be released. Which, if that's the case, these two are hilarious. And the reason I say that is I find it hard to believe that Elon would go off the rails like this and he would do what he's done and cause further damage to his companies. So, I don't know. And as far as the EV cutting that, I think that's a done deal. I don't think that's, if I remember reading somewhere, those are some of the things. They're not able to cut some of those things because that was already passed under, what's his face? Biden. And then, some of the other things are really, if Epstein files had that kind of information in it, why wouldn't the Democrats have pushed for it to be released while Biden was in presidency to actually put him in jail, put him in prison? I mean, my understanding, it does more damage to Democrats than it does to any Republican. But I don't know. That should be interesting what happens over the next couple of weeks or months, right? But, interesting TV, the soap opera, The Real Housewives of DC, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I do find it a little suspect. And I'm not real sure what the deal is behind with the bill. Some of the comments about the bill. I do know that Democrats have marked it up pretty badly. I mean, some of the things that they've added in there are what they're complaining about. So maybe it was a way to get the bill not passed, the big beautiful bill, because of what all the Democrats have done in markup. I don't know. We'll see. But I've been, every once in a while, I've been trying to catch up on the P. Diddy thing, and that is just crazy. That, some of the things, it's like, whoa. But, there's a part of me that thinks Sean Combs will be spending a lot of years in prison. And I know people talked about the question that one of the reporters had asked about Trump possibly pardoning him. And, Trump made the comment that, well, I'd actually have to see the case and see everything and determine, maybe. But I find that highly unlikely with some of the things that are coming out. Stranger things have happened, though, so. I mean, we had, what was it, the Biden administration, Biden all along claiming that Hunter laptop, that it was all nonsense, nothing about it was real, it was all fake news, blah, blah, blah. Then in the very end, he pardons him for what's on the laptop and everything else he's done. Yeah, you can't make up this stuff. This is where you have a lot of corrupt politicians, right and left. So, and in the middle. And some of those communists and socialists and all that aren't any better in there, so. A lot of crazy mix. And I know, I sit here and I think, we'll never get term limits for them. It will never happen. Do you think any of them would actually vote for it? If any of them did, it would happen because they had been bombed out of existence and we had to start over from the very beginning. And people remembered all this nonsense and said, we're going to go in, we're going to change things. Now fix it to where it's no longer that way. Gotta grab another color here. I'm getting ready to run out of both of them, so my white is running out, so I am going to add in this color. So let me tie it in. Then we'll just keep on moving. Just crazy, crazy. And the color I chose, like I said, is this one. So that one's added in and we're ready to scoot on till we're ready to add the next color. I'd gone to breakfast with some friends this morning, and we were kind of talking about things that go on in our community, those kind of things. And one of the gals had brought up the subject of, have you seen that woman that's homeless, that sleeps behind certain past business over there in the parking lot? I said, yeah, and I've seen her downtown a couple of times with her blanket wrapped around her sitting on the park bench real early in the morning. I said, now the other day I'd come out of the post office, like I could fit in a box, the post office, and I noticed her blanket was on the bench that was across the street from the post office. And it was just there by itself. And I thought, oh no, what's happened? She's lost her blanket. Where is she? Something happened to her? Did see her a little bit later, and she was fine. But we started talking about how we have a women's center, women's shelter, and someone said they had opened up a pregnancy resource center, which is across the street from the women's shelter. And a lot of people were very angry about that. And they'd suggest, well, there needs to be more, they should have turned it into another women's shelter instead of a pregnancy resource center. And someone said, well, that's the only shelter there for the homeless. I said, no, we have another house that's available for the homeless, but they have to agree to certain conditions to go into it. And one of those is that they get some education on budgeting, life skills, getting a job. They'll help them with interviews to get out and get a job, that kind of thing, so they can get back on their feet. Put them in touch with different resources to help them. And someone said to me, well, what's the name of that that shelter. I said, well, it's the Gary Fry house. They're like, well, no, wasn't that the garage? It's at the back. I said, no, it's the whole name of it. I said, they have the women and children that are downstairs. They have, I think, 6 rooms downstairs. And then there are 6 rooms upstairs for the men. I said, I think they added something back on where the garage area would have been, but there is no garage there. She's like, are you sure? I said, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I donated, like 6 or 7 quilts to them. Helped set up the children's playroom and helped sand and paint the cabinets that were in the kitchen. And I helped the gal quite often that was bringing in the food that they were bringing it in to get it stocked for its opening. So I said, but, I haven't been involved with it in a couple of years. So maybe they did change things. Maybe they did build a garage. And so who knows? But I always find it funny how communities, the amount of anger that goes into pregnancy resource centers. And I'm not sure why. They do everything that, Planned Parenthood does except do the abortion. They do counsel you. They give you options. They have classes to help you. If you do choose to keep your child, to help take care of your child, house, budgeting, all kinds of classes, those kind of things. I said, not only that, they do STD testing, a lot of other kind of things that they do there. But they also have something that Planned Parenthood does not have, and a lot of abortion centers do not. And that is aftercare if you have chosen to have an abortion. Because what we're finding is a lot of women who've had abortions, there is a lot of sorrow around it. There is a lot of, for some, there's a lot of guilt and shame. So they may need some counseling and some help. Just have someone listen to them and talk to them about that. But also, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of women who have had an abortion, they remember the date of the abortion. And it's an anniversary date. And it's something that comes up every year, either remorse or sadness for the choice that they made, or the reason they made the choice, may have been the right reason for them at the time, but they're still saddened by it, that kind of thing. So they do provide some aftercare. But I always thought that was kind of odd about why there was such a big deal about it coming in to the area. I mean, we do have a college here, and there are a lot of reasons to have, pregnancy resource center. I do know, I think there are 2 or 3 of the doctors in our area do perform abortions. Now, I'm not real sure about the once you get past the 3-month stage of gestation, where they send you. I think they send you to a center in Belfont or State College or Williamsport for that. But so yeah, I'm, there is a need for all of that, and I don't think that we should be so quick to try to shut their doors down. especially when they are providing a service that is helpful to some, you know. It's kind of like, let me see if I can put it this way. We have two shops here. One is a tea shop. The other is a metaphysical store. They each have their own specialty, whatever, but they are Wiccan in their beliefs. There's a lot of people who are really upset about this and, you know, want to see them shut down, that kind of thing. Well, I don't have a problem with them being in business as long as they're not trying to push their beliefs on other people. You know, if it's a great place to go have a cup of tea and sandwich, and you don't have to worry about being forced to listen to their views, fine. Got no problem with it. It's kind of like we have a coffee shop here in our area that is owned by a Christian church. Do I have a problem with that? No. They don't push anything on you. You know, it's just a place to meet up, have coffee. They do have some classrooms where they do all kinds of different things in the classrooms. Time to add the new color in. So I am going to use this color for the next color for the placement of the blue. Got to find the center. And get that tied in. But, you know, as far as it being a business, if you don't like the business, you don't like what they personally stand for, what they do in that business, don't shop there. You know, pretty easy decision not to do that kind of thing, but I don't know, people get it in their mind. They have to shut them down, get rid of them, run them out of town on a rail, tar and feather. I don't know, I just find that interesting. And I have had someone tell me, well, that's an odd take for someone who's a Christian. I said, well, I look at it like this. If God doesn't mean for them to either grow as a person or come to a realization that their faith is a little on the wayward side by someone coming in, you know, maybe someone coming in and talking with them about it, then maybe it was God's plan for them to be there all along. I don't know. Maybe it was a way for Christians to grow in their Christian faith, to take care of one another. Take care of others that are in need. That's a great place to take care of others who might be in need or disappointed by the things that they're seeing with their faith. Who knows? But, you know, I choose not to shop there, and I choose not to go in and to participate. So that is an option we all have. You know, it's kind of like you don't like what's going on, turn around and go out the door. You know, no reason to get all bent out of shape and lose your mind over it and lose sleep over it. Now, I do have a problem with one of the stores here. And I'll tell you, it's a lovely store. It's a beautiful store. The woman that started the store did it in honor of her grandmother. Her grandmother grew up in Hawaii, is Japanese. Well, her grandmother didn't grow up in Hawaii, but her mother grew up in Hawaii. Her grandmother came there as a result after the Japanese internment So that they had moved there, and so, her family was kind of raised in Hawaii with a lot of the Hawaiian traditions as well as Japanese traditions. So she opened up a store called Momoyo Atsu, um, named after her grandmother. And she claims to have fashioned all kinds of things for people of smaller size, adults, clothing, to plus size. Her plus size only extends to 1 plus or XL. And we've done a couple of shows with her for the at Christian Women. She has been a feature a couple of times for that. And I always tease her when I see her in there. I'm like, when are you going to get some real plus size clothing in? She says, well, I do. I said, no, you don't. You don't carry anything for the plus size women in our area. And I said, real plus size women, 2 plus up to 5 or 6X. And she just smiles. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's hard to get and it's hard to find things that are beautiful for that size because everybody thinks that the bigger we are, the longer our arms get, the longer our legs get. That's not always true for many of us. So she and I, we just, I like to pick at her and give her a hard time. She said, I'll have to think about it and look around and see what I can find. But she does have some beautiful items in the store. And I have been in there before. She also carries a lot of handbags and purses and backpacks. And I've been in there a couple of times. Purchased a bag there that I absolutely love. It's a nice small bag. So, yeah, there's always that. I said, well, I'll just consider this my plus size project. And what I think is funny is we used to have a bakery downtown. And someone said, well, we still have a bakery downtown. I was like, what? We do? And come to find out, we do have a bakery, but I never heard of it. So, found out about it yesterday. So, one of these days I'll have to go down and see if I can catch them open. And I think the bakery before that was there was only open like from 6 to noon, I think. And I just never seemed to be able to get downtown, to get to it. She did move out of the area, so she closed down the bakery. But, and I got to tell you, looking at her Facebook page that she has set up, she's got some absolutely stunning cakes in there. She also has, I guess, cinnamon rolls and donuts and all kinds of things. And of course, I'm filming this Friday, and Friday was the International Donut Day, so a lot of donut stores were giving away a free donut with a purchase. A lot of them you have to have purchase. Some of them where you didn't have to have purchase, but nice opportunity, right? To get a donut. And I think if you go into Dunkin' Donuts, you could get a coffee and get a donut. So that's always a nice thing to do. I like those kind of days. I had a question because we have a convenience store here that it's under the names. It's always had the name on top of the store that said Sunoco. A lot of people say Sunoco, but I've always known it as Sunoco. Maybe that's because being around someone that was, courted by a lot of the oil and gas people, Thomas, that that was the name that was bandied around when they were courting them. But one day there was a little notice in the paper that the 7-Eleven was closed down and would be closed down for about a week while they did some internal management, fixed some issues or something like that. And I'm like, we have a 7-Eleven? Well, it was a 7-Eleven, and who knew it was a 7-Eleven? I didn't. Well, now it has 7-Eleven on its sign underneath the Sunoco sign. But, one day a year at most 7-Elevens, you can get a free Slurpee. So I was like, okay, I need to find out what day that is, because every once in a while it'd be nice to get a Slurpee. So, I don't know if they participated in it or not, but would imagine if they're using the name 7-Eleven, they would participate. But, yeah, it's been a little bit of an interesting time. Finding out some of the things about your town you didn't know. One of the gals, because when we go for breakfast, we go to McDonald's. And one of the ladies was telling me that where the McDonald's was the old A&P grocery store. And I think she said after the flood, they were taken out. The flood kind of destroyed the A&P, and they just never came back. So they raised it down and did some other things, and then I think McDonald's purchased the lot, and then not McDonald's, but the people that own the McDonald's there purchased the lot and decided to put the McDonald's there. And then they were also telling me that the old high school where they were at, and right where the railroad tracks were, that there used to be like an overpass that went over the high school and over the railroad tracks to the other side. And I was like, really? Because I cannot, in my mind, picture that. Because some of the original building is still there. The university did purchase the old high school, and they did a lot of renovations and did some building, tore down part of it, and kept the gymnasium, which that section also has several classrooms attached to it. But, that was all taken out long before Thomas and I got to this area. So it was interesting to hear a little bit of that history about that. And, and I'm like, I wonder if they have, some pictures somewhere that I could see, because in my mind, I can't picture that. And I'd like to see what it looked like. And they said, yeah, it was like 3 stories that you had to go up. So I don't know. So I guess it means it's a trip to the library and hopefully it'll be a time when Lou Bernard is there and he can point me to some information about that. He loves history. Histories, ghost stories, ghost hunting, all that kind of stuff. And he is the person, when you want to find out some history about the area, you ask him, he can point you in the right direction. So, might have to do that. Because now I'm curious. You know, I want to see a picture of that. So, yeah. Well, I am going to let you go. I have a couple of things I need to do, take care of. And this phone keeps going off, driving me nuts. So I need to find out what's going on. Who knows, maybe a minor emergency around here, one of the kids. They may just be trying to get a hold of me. But whatever. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. I'll see you guys again soon. Everybody have a great weekend. And, yeah. Bye.